Hello, everyone. I'm Heather Davies, and this is Manier's Muse. This is part 2, Alicia Wolf, the Dizzy Cook. The first part of this conversation was so good. Alicia's second cookbook will be coming out this fall. We are eagerly awaiting it. If you haven't heard the first episode, I highly recommend you listen to that first before proceeding. Today's conversation focuses on how living with a vestibular disorder teaches you how to stand strong, and it will help you navigate in other areas of your life. The importance of changing your mindset around food. And as Alicia mentions, to, quote, stop looking at everything as a burden and more as an opportunity. I'm so happy you are here for this conversation. Alicia, welcome. Let's pick up where we left off. What would you say, Alicia, has living with a vestibular disorder taught you?
I think that it has just taught me to appreciate everything so much more. It's like we said about the traveling and everything, or how you stop and take the pictures of the clouds or,
Right.
I had a really, really challenging pregnancy and journey to pregnancy. And I do not think that I would have been strong enough to deal with it had I not already gone through the vestibular disorder, because it taught me a lot about doctors and when to push and when to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
And it taught me a lot about the medical system and how to navigate that better. And so I feel like I had a much easier experience and some easy in quotations experience with going through IVF than some of my friends, because they had never dealt with like a major health issue before. And so when you go into it already knowing how to navigate it a little bit more, it tends to be, you get better results faster. So it helped me really navigate the pregnancy, the postpartum. I had a plan for everything. And I think had I not gone through this, I would have never had a plan for any of this stuff.
Right.
So yeah, who knows? Who knows if George would be here? I have no idea. So it's kind of an interesting thought.
Yeah, but I understand it.
Yeah.
The journey teaches you a lot about not so much standing up for yourself, but I think we put physicians on a pedestal, the healthcare system, that they know everything. And I work in the health field, and I was right there when I got sick, and I'm like, why don't these people know what's wrong with me? And it has changed my perception that these are people with more knowledge than I, but not necessarily the right knowledge.
Yes, that's a great point. Not necessarily the right knowledge. Yes.
It takes time, and for sure.
I was just going to say, I feel like, I went at the point that I had my first loss, with my first pregnancy loss. Like, it was when I initially pushed my doctor to start testing. And I think in the US, they make you have like 2 or 3 before they push you to an RE. Yeah, it's actually really sad.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they make women go. If this were happening to men, it would never happen.
No.
But they make you have 2 or 3 before they actually refer you out to be an RE. And so I think after my first or second, that's when she just said, okay, you're going to go to your RE. And we even did testing after my first, just to rule out other things. And so I see a lot of people in the infertility space just wait and be pushed around and all that stuff. And it's the same thing that happens with vestibular disorders. You get pushed around from your, primary care doctor to an ENT maybe who doesn't really know a lot, to a neurologist who maybe doesn't know a lot. And if you don't get that right person, it's just going to keep getting pushed around. And so, it's advocating and being like, okay, these are the tests I want. This is what you need to do. And finding someone who will cooperate with you on that.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned the paralimb fistula that they thought that you had. Did you have the ECOG when they thought that for you?
I don't know. You know what? It may have been a part of my testing
Maybe.
at the Mayo. I mean,
I
I
know they probably
it
did a
was
lot
like,
there. Huh?
oh my God, it was like 2 days. I stood in this like machine that had me like sweating all around. And then you have the
You were in a
things in your
harness.
ear in the air. Yes, the
Yep.
harness
Yep.
thing. Yeah. Yeah. So we did the goggles, we did everything. So I would guess that maybe they did that. Yeah.
Crazy.
No, my doctor, it was Dr. Peter, I think his name was Peter Weiskopf, and his experience was actually on a naval base. And so he had a lot of experience with paralimb
Mm.
fistula where they're, blowing stuff up and all that kind of, dealing with flight, people flying and all that stuff. So, he knew immediately. It's like, this is not the diagnosis.
Right. Right. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, but it was nice because, the doctors, the vestibular therapist I was seeing before, they were talking about like surgery that was going to leave me deaf. And I just keep thinking like, oh my gosh, what if I would have listened to them
Yeah.
and not decided these people don't know anything?
Right.
Um and would have gotten the surgery and then I would have been deaf. Like
Yeah.
I can't wrap my head around it. And I actually left them a really bad review and um they came back and they were like, I said, I've spent so much money on your clinic, like probably like close to, I don't know, $1,500 or
Mhm.
somewhere around there. They tallied it all up and they said they made a donation to Vita with
Oh,
my
wow.
copays. Part of me was like, well, I just lost my job, so I don't like that bad, but it's good for Vita.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. That's good that they
Yeah.
reached out to you and told you that, though, but that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm hoping that it helps them, think about it a little bit more. Their excuse was like, oh, we see vestibular migraine overdiagnosed, but
Oh,
you could have
goodness.
at least mentioned it, it's just that was 6
There's
years ago. So hopefully they know more now. But
I will tell you,
yeah.
Alicia, there's so many times there are two particular doctors that I've walked out of and sat in the car and just cried because the way I
Yeah.
was treated. And
Yeah.
looking back, I want to write him and a letter, just for that closure to say, well, why would you treat someone like that? I was in a really bad place.
Yeah. Yeah. I think but it must be hard sometimes too. Like I always wonder because they have to kind of play therapist too, because you're
Yeah.
in there with people. I keep thinking like if we get frustrated, sometimes I think about this with my doctor too. Like if we get
Yeah.
frustrated with patients, like did they get frustrated? Because I see so many people who come to me and they're like, oh yeah, I got this medication, I didn't take it. And I'm like, what? Like if I were their doctor, I'd be like, what are you doing? Like
You
this
came to
is
me, I gave
our
you this. Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
So I see I've had wonderful doctors where I wonder if they get frustrated, and then
Yeah.
I see that's horrible stories or the way you're talked to, or you're talked down to, or
Yeah. Yeah.
like I remember this ENT I saw, and he was supposed to be like one of Dee's best, or like Dallas's best. And he only spoke to my husband when he was in the room and not to
Oh,
me. And I'm like, this is my illness. Like,
yeah,
I am
that's terrible.
competent. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
sad. I think we all have those stories. My mother went with me because we had a little one at the time, so she went with to
Yeah.
all of. That's another thing. Go to these doctor's appointments with someone
With
that will
someone.
recall things because
Yeah.
sometimes you're not in the right space. And we were sitting outside the oh my gosh, my brain
The
fog.
waiting room or
The the room we were in. We were just right
Okay.
inside the room, and he was just outside, and the door was cracked enough. And he said to his assistant, "It's all in her head." And I'm like, looked at mom, and I'm
Oh
like,
my God.
"Oh, it's all in my head. It is all in my head." But I think we all have those stories, and it's just, it's terrible. But you really have to keep searching for that one that clicks with you. It
Yeah. Yeah.
becomes
Uh-huh.
part of your team.
Yeah. I totally get that.
Um, yeah, it's
Yeah. I'm sorry you had to deal with it. Like, I'm
yeah,
sorry. I'm
it
s-
it
I
stinks.
feel like I need to say that to patients. Like, I'm sorry that you went through that. I'm sorry that they didn't hear you. I'm sorry that they treated you that way. Like, I
Yeah,
hope that you find another. It's sad because we already have like a shortage of doctors, and then we
right.
don't need them to be a certain way.
But
Sometimes you
the one
wonder
that
like why they got into it, you
I
know?
know, and the one that treated me so poorly, I referred so many people to him because I loved him when I first
Yeah.
met him, first couple appointments. So I might someday reach out to him and say, "Hey," and just
Yeah.
write that letter and let him know
Well,
how I
have they
felt
ever
about it.
gotten back to you? I'm so curious. Have they ever
Um,
said anything?
no, no, that was that. I have
Yeah.
not seen him since, and since found another physician,
Hey,
but
you
you
know,
learn going through this mess.
yeah, you do. And you do know your body best. And
I recently heard that some doctors don't even believe in food triggers or even food for migraine prevention.
sure enough, like they're starting to say that only like something like 10 to 20% of patients can accurately diagnose their food triggers, and that that this was
I
like
don't
a
believe
study
that.
done. And I'm like, how who are you testing for these people in the study? Like, how accurate were they doing these diets? Like, were they even doing an
Were they
elimination diet, or were they
journaling?
just trying? Yeah, were they journaling? Like, what were they trying? Like, what were they even doing this accurately, is my question, because I see a lot of people who don't do it accurately. And it's frustrating that doctors just take that and run with it, like to write off
Mhm.
any changes, because I wouldn't have a website if I wouldn't have a successful website if it didn't work for people. You
Right.
wouldn't be here and be like, I know my triggers, and it's
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here too saying the same thing. And so I feel like it was really upsetting to me, because I felt like it was medical gaslighting for this for them to sit there and say patients don't really know what they're talking about and how to read their own bodies. And it's fine. Yeah, maybe some don't, but don't
Right.
say that. Like that, don't put that in anyone's head. It's
Right.
just we don't need any more doubt about ourselves. And if your patient's going to know a lot better than you are about how they feel.
Especially if they're given the tools. If they don't have the tools to even look, no, I didn't know that food could be a trigger.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I really didn't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, well, okay. But
Right. Right.
learning all that, people don't know unless they're given those tools to really look and learn about their bodies.
Yes, exactly.
Your
And it just
18-year-old, they're
changed,
probably not going to know anything.
but now you're probably cooking it more at home, and or to enjoy it. And that's
Yeah.
overall a more enjoyable experience than, picking up something from, going
Right.
out or whatever.
Right.
So, yeah, I try to shift people's mindset about it. Like, it's not just about eliminating foods, but it's really about changing your focus on how you look at food, and like, is this going to nourish my brain? Is this going to be good for my body? Is it going to bring me joy to serve this to my family? I mean, that's a big part of it too.
For
So
sure.
family dinners can bring a lot of healing. And I think people discount that and just think, okay, I just have to cook and it's such a burden. But
Mhm.
it can be a lot of fun. Yeah.
It really can. We have family in
Yeah.
Chicago, and all the men are chefs, and it's a big deal. And they went to school in France. So when you sit down for a meal, you're sitting
Yeah.
down for hours.
Oh,
It's
that's so
the
fun.
it's so great.
I
The
love that.
engagement, and you're just immerse yourself in the family conversation and the dynamics. Uh,
Yeah. yeah, it's such a good quality time, like, especially if you've nowhere to be. And I don't know, it's just, I think that's what really helped, like, me and my husband connect. It's what's helped me connect to my family. And yeah, it's just been really, it's been a wonderful thing. It's helped a lot with my healing. And so I try to encourage people and just say, like, it's like the same thing, like, quit looking at everything as like a burden, but like as an opportunity,
Hmm.
and shifting your mindset a little bit about it can make such a difference.
It
I
does.
want to come to dinner at their place.
Well, I will tell you, what was I just gonna say? Oh gosh, I just got off track. Oh well, it's gone.
It's okay. I am so used to my brain doing that.
No idea.
It happened the other day. I was in my cooking class and I'm like trying to think of the word for sifter. And I'm like, that
Yep.
thing that like just put the flour in. And like,
Uh-huh.
I could not think of it. And finally,
Yep.
someone said it. I was like, thank God.
Well, Alicia, it has been so great talking to you. And I know you do so much for the vestibular community. Thank you so much. I'm so glad I finally got to speak to one of our vestibular celebrities.
I know. I feel like you're a celebrity too, because we really started, there was like a group of us that really started like talking around the same time. And I feel like it was like you and me and Kayla and like Laura over in the UK. And those
Yeah,
are who I like
Jennifer.
really remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are who I really remember, like, you know, getting all together in our little group. And
Uh,
yeah, it was,
I hope Laura makes it to the US. A couple years ago, she was going to make it to Orlando to go to Disney, and we were going to
okay.
make a trip out there, and then they had to cancel. It's like, oh, so
Oh
close,
no.
so close.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Alicia, I can't let you go before you tell us about your cookbooks.
So my first cookbook is called The Dizzy Cook: Managing Migraine with More Than 90 Comforting Recipes and Lifestyle Tips. And basically, how it came about, it actually came up when around the time, like, I think I was only like in a year into doing The Dizzy Cook, when I got this email, and it was from a publisher or an editor, and she said, "Hey, like, I love your blog. Would you ever be interested in doing this in a cookbook?" And as like people who have websites and blogs, and I'm sure you get this too, like, you get a lot of scam emails. So people wanting to either put stuff on your website or, take your name and put it on stuff or whatever. And so you have to be really careful to sort through. But as a new blogger, you get excited about this stuff, and then you realize it's a scam and you're like, oh dang, that stinks. So I thought it was a scam, and they were gonna do they were gonna have they were going to charge me to print it and all this stuff. And it was very real. And my editor actually has vestibular migraine herself.
Oh,
And yeah, so that's how she found me. And she was cooking a lot of the recipes. And she's like, oh my gosh, these are just really good recipes. And she used to publish like William Sonoma cookbooks. And so we talked a few times about it, and I thought, well, this is like my dream to do a cookbook. And so, yeah, let's go for it. I did not realize what I was signing up for. It was just so much work, and you're also doing it as someone who is struggling with vestibular migraine yourself. And so the deadlines and like sometimes I had problems with editing. And I'm noticing this time around it's going a little bit easier for me, but just like track changes in Word and everything were really hard on my eyes. But basically, it came together, and this cookbook is a compilation of recipes. My whole goal is to make people realize like an elimination diet is very attainable and it's easy to fit into your lifestyle. Not just for you, but the whole family can get
mhm.
behind. And I realize like if people are going to make changes to their diet, like it has to be something you want to be cooking 3 separate meals. Like no one with chronic illness can do that. So it has to be something the whole family is going to enjoy eating as well. So that's what I really focused on with this cookbook, was making like classic recipes, but more migraine friendly. So like meatloaf and beef stroganoff and things like mac and cheese. Like I just wanted that comfort food, but without aged cheese or without yogurt or sour cream or any of the fermented items, or just making edits here and there, that eliminated some of those common migraine triggers. And then it also puts like everything from my website in kind of one easy to read space. So like if people do have trouble reading online and scrolling, it's like the best thing. It takes all that out of it, the
Right.
component. And so it's really good for people who are at like the height of their vestibular migraine, to have it all in one place. It also gives like supplement tips like on magnesium and a lot of the research I've done throughout the years. That's also on my website too, but it kind of explained a little more succinctly in the book. This new book is Dr. Bay has been a big supporter of me and my website for a long time, as my neurologist. And it kind of goes back and forth. I refer a lot of patients to him, and he sends them over to me, like when they're looking for dietary changes and stuff like that. And he approached me and was like, "Hey, would you ever consider writing a book? I have this idea, but it is not elimination based, but it is very scientific based." So there are a few books out there for migraine. They either tend to be elimination based, like my first book, or they are keto based. But there's nothing that really helps you with like a sustainable long term approach to changing your diet to manage vestibular disorders and migraine and that sort of thing. So he wanted to, bring that to our group of people
Right.
that need it. And
When will that be launching?
so that'll be coming out in October, and it's more of a Mediterranean diet focus. So there's been a lot of studies on like how Mediterranean diet is really good for brain health. So it's a lot of the recipes are focused on uh, not necessarily. We talk a little bit about food triggers, and so Dr. Bay includes the food triggers he sees as the most common, either from a scientific standpoint. So a lot of high tyramine foods. We eliminate caffeine. We eliminate chocolate. And there's a little controversy on chocolate in some studies, but he kind of goes over that in the book. We also get into really interesting things like glutamate in tomatoes. So
Mhm.
some people in our community really struggle with tomatoes from both like a histamine and a glutamate setting. And so tomatoes are high in natural glutamate, which is what kind of gives them that umami flavor. It's similar with mushrooms too. And so some people who are extremely sensitive to MSG can be sensitive to natural things that are like high glutamate too. So he talks about like how to cut your tomato to eliminate some of that glutamate content, which
Oh,
is
really?
super fascinating. I had no idea, but this has actually been studied like in scientific studies. So I incorporate that into the recipes in the book. So it's very high omega-3, balancing omega-3s and omega-6s, as well as like foods that just boost your brain function, your brain health, cognitive function. So things that are really good for brain fog. So it's a really good book for people who either the elimination diet is too hard for them or too much, and they just want to make small changes and know what to incorporate in their diets to eat a little bit better. Or they've done the elimination diet, they know their food triggers, and they're looking for something that's a little more flexible long term. So I include more things like citrus in it, as well as yogurt, which is a big trigger of mine, or even nuts. But I give edits for people who do have those sensitivities. So there should be something for everyone in this cookbook. I hope. That's my goal. And it should be out this October,
Wow.
assuming I get my edits in today.
That is super exciting.
Thank you.
Where can they purchase your cookbooks?
So my
Well,
current cookbook, The Dizzy Cook, it is available almost everywhere books are sold, but I highly recommend going to my website, which is thedizzycookshop.com. It supports me as a writer directly. I don't know if people know this, but you don't really make money off of books you sell on Amazon. It's very, very small amount. And so while the book is available on Amazon, and I totally understand people are going to purchase it from there, if they get it from the dizzycookshop.com, I package it and send it myself and write a little note in it. And it just supports the website directly. So yeah, both options.
Okay.
And it'll be the same in the new book. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No one realizes it. And I think they think, oh, you have a cookbook, you make all this money. And by the time everyone takes a cut, it's very, very small. So yeah, it's sort of nice to make just a little bit extra selling it yourself,
I'll include the website in the show notes so people can pick up your cookbook. Well, before I let you go, is there anything else you wanted to share?
No, I think that's all. We covered a lot today. So yeah.
I do this whirlwind questions, and it's just really laid back. So are you ready?
Yeah.
Fill in the blank. Vestibular disorders are?
Hard.
They are hard. If you feel your symptoms coming on and you're trying to be brave, what's the first thing that you do?
Oh, trying to be brave. Put myself in a safe space. So whether it's grounding or reaching for, right now, I just kind of go into fix it mode. So I have this protocol that I do with my gamma core and supplements and everything, like a stepped protocol that I do. And I just kind of go into autopilot.
Yeah.
But I would say put yourself, especially for a vertigo attack, put yourself in a safe space. So whether that's like up against a wall with your feet kind of touching the floor, or your hands next to you touching the floor, or wherever you feel safe and grounded is helpful.
Right. What is one thing that people usually get wrong about you?
Oh, that's a tough one. Oh my gosh. Okay. That they get wrong about me. Probably that I got better overnight. That I think a lot of people think that I just did the diet and I was like, because I talk about it a lot and I was cured. Yeah. And I think that's probably the thing that people get wrong the most, is that they don't really see all the other work I did and that I had to be on medication the way I started. And I don't think I could have relied on diet alone.
No. I don't think people realize it takes a lot of work. And when I say that, people, they're like, I don't get it. It just does. Yeah. Look back at the journals when we were deep in darkness, and it's like, whoa, yeah, we've come a long way.
A long way. And I just think everyone just sees the fun meals and the cooking, and they don't realize like all the stuff behind the scenes,
all that stress.
Yeah.
What's your favorite meal?
My favorite meal is probably my Borson pasta.
Pasta. I'm going to have to look the recipe up.
It's really good. It's very decadent. So it's one of those you only have once in a while. Sometimes I'll lighten it up a little bit, but I love that one. And I love my grandma's lazy lasagna. I have a recipe for that. And so that one's kind of sentimental for me too.
Aww, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What's the last show you binged and loved?
last show I binged and loved. Okay, so I'm currently on Inventing Anna.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
It's good. It's
Did you
good. I
watch
like
Ozark?
it. I haven't watched Ozark. Is
Okay.
it similar to that?
No, but the main character is in that one, and she's pretty intense in Ozark.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the funny thing about Inventing Anna is like I get so distracted by her accent, but then I'm like, I was talking to my husband while I was brushing my teeth the other day, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I sound like Anna Delvey. And I was like, that's probably how she came out with it when she was brushing her teeth. Like,
I know her accent is pretty
yeah,
distinct.
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I was actually surprised I would like that. But it was interesting to say the
Yeah,
least.
it's interesting. I'm really excited for Stranger Things to come out.
Oh,
That's the
I
new one
haven't
I'm
watched
excited
that one
about.
yet. No.
Yeah.
No.
It's creepy, but it's good.
Is it?
Yeah.
Let's see. What's on your nightstand?
My nightstand. Not a lot. Actually, my magnesium spray and I have this like fluffy mask that I have, and then my glasses, and I have like a lavender pillow spray
Aw, I
and
like
a big jug of water. And
that.
that's it.
What
Yeah.
activity completely relaxes you?
Oh, my massage therapist is like a gift from God. She's amazing and she has helped me. I am so blessed to have met her. And I started going to her around the time that I got sick with vestibular migraine. And she has seen me at some of my worst. And the way that she researched my illness and learned new things and the program that she's come up for me, like now she'll do it for, she has people with vestibular migraine coming to her, and so she's developed
Oh,
this program for them, which is incredible. But every time I go see her, it's just like my happy space and it's my
nice.
time alone, and it's just like so nice.
That
Yeah,
is awesome. Does she do cranial sacral work?
she does.
I
Yeah, so we
love that.
do. So my sessions, we do a little bit of, Swedish massage, and then she'll do acupressure kind of on my head and on my feet. And then we do cranial sacral therapy. And she wraps my head actually with a towel that covers my eyes. And so it just makes my head feel like secure. And
Right,
sometimes having that pressure just makes you feel like you're not so floaty and you're
right.
more grounded.
Yeah,
And just stuff like that she's come up
nice.
with is, I'm very thankful. And I've
Is
referred a
she in
few people.
Dallas?
She's in Dallas. If you ever come to Dallas, you got to see Simetria. She is
Oh,
amazing.
that might be
Yeah.
worth a trip. My best friend lives in Justin, so I might have
Okay,
to.
yeah. Well, come out here anytime. We'd love to have you.
That would be awesome. What?
Yeah, Simetria is worth it.
That's great. Well, I would definitely have to think about that because I haven't had
Yeah.
the cranial sacral therapy done in a long time, and just the thought of it is like, oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like she'll even do like sometimes if my neck is really bad, she'll do some cupping in different spots on my neck. We've done gua sha too, which can be helpful. So there's just a lot of different techniques outside of like your basic massage. And if you get one that's like really experienced with it, it can be a really good thing. Yeah.
what movie could you watch over and over and never tire of?
The Holiday.
Oh my goodness. I
I
love
love
Cameron Diaz. I love
The
both of them. Yeah.
Holiday.
Yes. It's one I like to put
That's
on
the one that,
when I'm cleaning because I can just,
yeah, it's
that's
just
awesome.
fun. I don't know. It's one of those you just like to watch, and it makes you feel good, right?
Yes. Makes you want to travel and take that chance too.
we
Either
we
one of the house.
actually my I have a girlfriend I grew up with, and she we're both from Oklahoma, and she met her husband on study abroad, and they live in London now. And so when we were struggling with IVF and pregnancy and everything, she was like, come out here and go to the Cotswolds, and you'll feel like Cameron Diaz in The Holiday. And so that's what we did for our trip. And we definitely felt like Cameron Diaz in The Holiday. It was really
That's
fun.
awesome. That is great. I love that story.
It's beautiful out there.
On my bucket list for sure.
Yeah.
What is, out of your vestibular toolbox, what tool do you use most?
Currently it's my Gamma Core. But yeah, my Gamma Core and magnesium, I would say, are the number two, or the two top things I reach for first out of everything. Yeah, I love magnesium. And then Gamma Core is a new treatment for me. It's something I started using postpartum, and it stimulates your vagus nerve. So basically the nerve responsible for your gut brain connection, and it can be, helpful for different things. But yeah, it's something I've really started relying on.
Nice. I'm not familiar with it, but I'll have to do a little research on it.
Yeah, let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to write a blog post on it now that I've been using it for a year, and I feel like I've given it a fair shot to write about my experience. But yeah, it's one of those treatments. It's just really nice to have because there's no side effects to it, and so. And I'll notice, even if I'm just tired or feeling sluggish, not necessarily vestibular symptoms, or it just helps make me feel more alert and have more energy. And so it's just one of those things that's kind of good to have in your back pocket, I think.
Personal. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you extremely grateful for right now?
Oh, my family, especially George. Yeah. He's at that age where I struggled a lot with postpartum anxiety and depression. And there was a part of me where I was like, oh my gosh, we just went through all this, this whole infertility journey. And I felt like the worst mom. I felt like I couldn't do it. I honestly felt like I didn't want to be a mom. And now, looking back, I'm like, it makes me upset, but I just, recognizing that I was going through that. And now a lot of that was tied to breastfeeding too, which I just realized I needed to let go of that. It just wasn't for me. And once I did that, it was I got back into myself again. And it just, I've enjoyed being a mom so much. And it's just oh, this is what I worked so hard for. I'm just so grateful. So yeah, having my husband and George is the best.
There is so much pressure for breastfeeding. With Lila, I had her at 43, and I remember the time I said, this is it. I was in the middle of my bed, just crying, sitting Indian with her laying in my lap, and I was just bawling because she just wouldn't latch on anymore.
Yeah.
And my husband's like, nope, I'm going to get formula.
Yeah.
So it's just, and it was just a release. Finally, okay, fine. And then she's thriving.
Release. Yes. George wasn't gaining weight, and we had to do 2 tongue tie procedures. And it was I was so stressed out. And then my hormones, I was one of those people who didn't lose weight breastfeeding. I gained weight. And so I felt like my hormones were just all over the place. And I just, the second I stopped, probably a month later, I just felt like I could I just had a deep breath. Yeah. And so I'm glad I did it for the amount of time, but it's not happening again. I'm going straight to formula next time. And I don't even care who judges me.
No, I get it. I get it completely. Well, Alicia, it has been such a pleasure. And I'm glad we finally connected. And thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me, Heather. It's been so nice to talk to you.
Thank you for joining me, Heather Davies, and my guest, Alicia Wolf, also known as the Dizzy Cook. on this week's episode of Meniere's Muse. If you would like more information on vestibular disorders, please find the link to VITA, Vestibular Disorders Association, in the show notes. If you would like to connect with Alicia, please follow the links to her Instagram, website, and YouTube, and the many other ways to connect with her listed in the show notes. If you would like to connect with me, Heather Davies, please feel free to reach out to me via email at meniersmuse@gmail.com or find me on Instagram. Thanks so much for being here. Have an amazing week, warriors.